compliance is not totally that will secure an organization. It's more or less an activity performed to ensure that they are complying with the minimum guidelines, standards, policies required by the regulator. On top of it, risk management is something, a risk-based approach is something that will ensure you are proactively looking at what is emerging for that particular industry. For example,
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome aboard to Hacker Harbor Podcast. We are on a mission to make cybersecurity learning easy with a blend of experience. You are listening to Cybersecurity Beyond Pentesting, Episode 3, featuring Divakar Prayaga. I am 𝐂𝐲𝐛𝐞𝐫 your host and captain for today's episode. Divakar is a seasoned leader with nearly 2 decades of experience managing cyber risk across diverse business functions. He is a mentor and advisor and has supported 100 plus deep tech and cybersecurity startups through his various initiatives like NASSCOM and DSCI. Well, there is a say, there is no age for learning, and he is proving that as he currently is experimenting his skills with IIM Bangalore. Now we would love to know more about you, Divakar, how you started your journey, and before that, I would like to thank you for being on the episode 3 of Cybersecurity Beyond Pen Testing.
thank you so much, Yash. Thanks for having me on your podcast today. I'm really looking forward to continue to learn and support the cybersecurity community. So it makes this podcast more valuable to bring the notion of what's cybersecurity beyond the penetration testing. So quickly, I think since you have asked how did I start my career, so it all started after my engineering. Coding is not something I really loved, and cybersecurity or network security back then, network engineering fascinated me. It started off with an internship from a no-neck bank, and then I moved on to quickly learn the nuances of building small networks at this intern where I worked for a few months. I was also involved in pre-sales, understanding the business side of the world. So it started with switching, routing, firewalls, IDS, IPS, and then other opportunities came in the form of cybersecurity analysis, working on SIM, then explored into multiple other cybersecurity tools, solutions, learning each one on the job, taking trainings, doing certifications. So it's a long journey, but I think what I love the most is learning each day. It's challenging. It's something new. That is something I loved, and I continued to persist in this field.
So it is, interesting to know you started with networking, wherein several beginners nowadays jump onto they want to get started into cybersecurity while they just sideline the importance of networking, because I personally feel if you want to build a house you need to know how it is being constructed from the base. Your foundations should be strong to get into cybersecurity. So that was, I think, a great start to the career, and then you experimented in your initial days about sales and stuff. So that there is a discussion we start with in our podcast. What is your perspective when we say cybersecurity beyond pen testing?
Absolutely, Ash. I think penetration testing is a well-known cybersecurity trade. It's very well known across the industry that it's a beginning point. That's how you identify, detect what is wrong in a particular system or a program of your organization. Carefully analyzing, assessing the crown jewels. It could be some databases, servers, systems, applications. You find the bugs by using the penetration testing methodologies, both manual, automated, and thereby you understand what are those critical bugs that can disrupt your business and go on to fix them. which is a very starting point and a very valuable program in my opinion. And beyond penetration testing, I think there is a whole world that many do not see from outside. Neither there is a lot of training or awareness or emphasis on these areas. These are technical and some non-technical as well. So usually, a typical organization, a matured organization or a mid-market organization, structures its information security program into multiple verticals under the information security program. So it starts with governance, risk, and compliance, where the job of the team is to look at how a cybersecurity program has to look like. What are some of the policies, standards, compliance requirements that they need to abide by based on the industry that they are operating. So this team is a small team that not does not essentially is a hardcore technical team, but they understand the business and put together the requirements to achieve those. Then immediately, the second one is the infrastructure team or engineering teams. So the infrastructure teams work on various cybersecurity solutions, network solutions, IT solutions, integrating them, monitoring, all that comes under, including the operations, security operations comes under the infrastructure most of the time. Then architecture team or application security, sometimes both are combined together. So an application security team is a pivotal team in understanding what are the various applications that an organization is creating. How do they continue to sustain, develop very secure code, and they consume penetration testing as well, right? So, and at the same time, architecture teams, enterprise architecture teams, essentially work with the business teams to understand the high level requirements of a business and stitch together the components needed to achieve secure design by threat modeling, by performing code review, and several other functions within the application security. Last but not least, there are many teams that can be combined under information security program, but one team that is growing rapidly and it's highly operational in nature is identity and access management. So
Mm-hmm.
provisioning, deprovisioning, creating new users, and certifying them on a frequent basis. Continue to have safeguarding the access and revoking them when needed, or somebody leaves an organization is an important operational aspect. And most large and matured organizations have identity and access management as a standalone function. Right. So these are some of the functions, teams, capabilities that are operated beyond penetration testing within the information security program.
So yeah, recent breaches and several things that are happening in the cybersecurity are somehow part of not able to revoke access management, and that there is some loopholes there. And there is this thing called human factor of cybersecurity. So for a beginner, like just starting out of the college, wanting to get started into the cybersecurity, back in 2007 when you started, there were very few things around cybersecurity. So what was your motive to get started into cybersecurity?
Well, for me, I think working on the active side of the communications after finishing my electronics and communication engineering was something I was looking at. And a couple of my friends were actually working on the network side. And I realized how a day looks like for them. What all do they deal with? How routing works, how switching works, how firewalls work is some of the nuances I picked up from my friends, and that really fascinated me. I joined as an intern and continued to uh, take trainings. So CCNA was one of those first trainings, Cisco Certified Network Associate, which provides a whole lot of basic understanding of how a network can be designed, network can be established for an organization, and how you can secure using some of the ports protocols that are available by filtering them, by creating VLANs, by creating smaller networks that segregates the data flow between them was a very basic functionality. If somebody does not have this basic understanding, anything to build on top of it would be really difficult. So most of the basics they should be cleared. is something I really enjoyed the most, and continued to explore other fields within the cybersecurity. So once there is market changes that are happening with latest techniques such as using of SIM for ticketing, analysis. So all the deep dive really helped in probably performing the packet capture and understanding what's really happening at a port protocol level. So then on, I think it's a matter of working on various other tools, like whether it be content filters, spam filters, vulnerability scanners, and a whole plethora of tools. So I had been privileged to work across various tools, technologies from the starting of my career.
Yeah, so I remember my days of the computer network classes wherein we were uh, taught about capturing packets, basics of networking, and then jumping onto ports and how which port is secured, which is not secured, and somehow down the line when I read about pen testing reports nowadays, I understand okay, this is to be done, and in order to start with Nmap as a particular very
Absolutely.
initial tool, you need to clear your basics. So you worked in a bank and fintech sector for a longer time of your career. And when we say cybersecurity, people often understand that cyber crimes are financial crimes that happen around them. So to be able to secure those systems and being around those environments, what was your takeaway, and what lessons did you learn out of them experimenting about things?
Sure. So I look at the cybersecurity program for various industries into two sectors. One is regulated and the other one is non-regulated. Regulated is something like banking, fintech, telco, insurance. So these are all regulated industries, and they basically have the mandates coming from the regulators in terms of complying to them. And I think the program starts with looking at what are those requirements and how do we achieve those, and at the same time balancing the risk. So compliance is not totally that will secure an organization. It's more or less an activity performed to ensure that they are complying with the minimum guidelines, standards, policies required by the regulator. On top of it, risk management is something, a risk-based approach is something that will ensure you are proactively looking at what is emerging for that particular industry. For example, banking, what are the financial crimes? What are some of the threat actors which are working against financial crimes, working for financial crimes, and how APTs are shaping up, how malwares are shaping up, what's happening in the deep web, dark web is something that will be analyzed to the risk management program. And proactively, teams pick up the signals and prepare the systems to thwart any attacks. So that's how regulated industry works. And non-regulated, I think wherever I have worked, I look forward to have it self-regulated, whether it's non-regulated industry or regulated. We make sure we follow some of these basics. We follow the guidelines, standards in line with a regulated entity, and ensure there is adequate risk management in place by building proactive systems, practices, and also complying with the guidelines. So, creating the right standards, policies, guidelines in line with the business requirements, and creating the risk appetite for a specific organization comes really
Mhm.
handy in creating a safe and mature cybersecurity program. And this won't happen in a very short span of time. This maturity kicks in maybe months or even years based on the organization and industry you're operating in.
So I guess you have built a team from scratch, and to be able to have them learn these things is very important. The other day I was going through this course from ICE Square, certified in cybersecurity. So they have this module wherein they explain about networking, they explain about disaster recovery, business continuity, and everything. So, what is your view? How important it is for a beginner to have a basic idea, not mastering it, but have a basic idea of what it is, how it can be implemented into the business, and how important it is for a business to continually, go with it.
A great question, Yash. I think business continuity management, disaster recovery are great programs. And while I explained earlier, the regulated industries are still definitely having mandates to have these programs in place, but non-regulated industries ignore them to an extent and realize very late into the game where they could have been impacted by ransomware and they don't have the backup of a database, right? So it all depends on the business, the industry that they're operating in, and how critical is the data, right? So data is the new oil, data is the money for most of these organizations working, especially on the consumer services front. So they have the obligation to protect the data, to safeguard it before it falls into the wrong hands. And based on these, there has to be stipulated policies, standards created to have a strong or stringent business continuity programs in case if something happens. It could be as simple as power backup, not having power backup to your data center, adequate power backup to your data center. There could be natural calamities that would cause disruption to your business. And if you are into providing services to the customers, that would actually impact you on your business front as well. Right. So all these use cases combine the requirement to build information systems in a very resilient manner and ensure you have a strong BCPDR program that is accurate, tested frequently. So several times in most of the organizations where I work, we had tabletop exercises,
Hmm.
which goes through the checklist of things to make sure everything is in place as planned. Then there are simulation activities that would actually invoke the BCP and test out is everyone following a stipulated practice procedure to ensure safety of the personnel and also the upkeeping of the systems. This continuous process would ensure resiliency for an organization. And coming to the point, for a fresher or a rookie to pick up this field definitely is a great way. It's about understanding the business and building the right practices to keep the organization or industry resilient. And requires a whole lot of team play here. It's not something an individual could do. They have to work with multiple stakeholders, whether it be IT, finance, HR, the senior management teams, the executive leadership teams. So several teams together create a program like a BCPTR, and it's more of a team game. It's not an individual game, I would say.
So, for a aspiring leader wanting to get to CXO positions or CISO for some day, you have built a
Yeah.
team from scratches. So, what's your advice on how to go around it, pick the right person, or train the people right way, so that you don't need to hire another set of people just to get started with your things, rather than you training them into your organization, whichever person existed already. So the questions like, let's say I'm not hiring a newcomer, rather I'm training the person who was there as an intern in my organization. So what's your takeaway on that?
Yash, industry believes hire for attitude and train for skills. Right. So what do I mean by that is somebody comes with adaptable mindset that they are okay to learn, they are okay to continue to learn and upskill, upgrade, relearn where needed would actually go a long way. So as a leader, I think I have been hiring teams, building from the scratch, like you mentioned, for more than a decade. And what I looked in when I'm hiring a candidate is this quality. This is the number one thing that I look for. Is he someone who would adapt, understand, learn, rediscover, or would he be fixing himself into a circle or a square to operate it only that way? Would he look beyond or not is something I have done. And most of the times when I have gone with the right attitudes, I think they have proven me right by adapting, by relearning the nuances needed for a specific organization and accomplishing the team task. So most of the time in the security operation centers where I have built ground up, there was this need to build something new that wasn't existing, right? So I picked up small teams, trained them. We all worked together continuously. We had great camaraderie. in between the teams, and together we accomplished whatever it is that we have built. And from single digit to hundreds of customers, we could only serve by building great teams. Okay? Continuously, we have to rediscover, and like I mentioned, every day it's a new challenge on the cybersecurity. A new threat, a new ransomware is being created in a span of days. When I started my career, it used to be maybe months or years, but the trends are changing right now, and staying abreast with what's latest, what's upcoming, how can we be proactive is a great quality. So continuous learning is the key, Ash, if I have to sum it up. And one has to invest in continuous learning to also grow in their career, whether it be as an analyst or a CXO or a CISO. It is only by continuous learning that can happen.
Yeah, so I can sum up is you tend to master one skill, but you don't need to be master of all. You need to be, having all the capabilities to handle yourself in a situation what comes to you, not what you want to be in. So that sums up thing very well. So you mentioned about learning being a continuous process, and we tend to learn because every day there is something new, there is something new coming up, and you being experimenting things since I just saw your profile and it was you already went for a diploma in cyber law back in 2020 223. So and now you are experimenting with IIM Bangalore. So what's your suggestions to the people who want to somewhere, who feel stuck that I don't want to miss on my job, miss on my daily routine, and want to uh, pursue experiment things, and might be a master's or going back to college again would help me reinvent, rebuild myself.
Sure, yes. I believe if you asked me a decade ago, what is that dream role? What do you want to be one day, 5 years or 10 years from now in your career? Undoubtedly, I could have said a CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer, which is the most coveted role, and definitely a very demanding role in the industry. But as I grew into the career in performing various leadership functions and building teams, accomplishing the tasks for an organization, I realized it's important to be a problem solver more than specific to a role. That actually made me think beyond CISO. Right. So
Hmm.
there is a lot of uh, learning that goes into becoming who we are, and it totally depends on personal interest. Sometimes technical, non-technical, soft skills. So there is a lot of requirement to be a problem solver. So one realization that happened to me late into the game, I would say, I haven't really invested in my own education until ninth or tenth year in my career. So once I
Hmm.
realized there is the need for continuous investment, I didn't look back. So that's where I try to look at pursuing possibly one new course, something that really adds a lot of value in what my continuous learning journey has to look like. And since 2017, I have been continuously investing in a training or a course, like whether it be CISM certification, cloud certification, then ISO, then diploma in cyber law also happened through the same thought process that I should understand as a leader the legal nuances, the IT Act, Indian penal codes, and understanding how to report a cybercrime, how do I liaise with multiple stakeholders. And last but not least, currently pursuing a program from IIM Bangalore, which as a leader provides a whole lot of understanding that a traditional role within an organization might not sometimes. So, having good understanding of finance, marketing, economics, strategy, operations was the need for me. And this is like an MBA that provides me with some flexibility to perform my job and at the same time continue to learn and rediscover myself. So, that's something I'm looking forward to. So, how do I continue to scale up? How do I continue to discover myself? What do I get to learn? What do I get to explore? How do I experiment with other things? Is what I'm looking forward to. And all this stems from understanding how the world is changing, what are the latest techniques, trends that are going to impact a business, and how can you be a problem solver. So that was a higher need for me.
Uh, yeah, so being able to rethink, rejuvenate, and experiment, as I mentioned, several people somehow feel they don't need that, but back of the mind they know I won't be able to do that for a time being, and then they happen to experiment. And with the startup culture building around the country, every aspiring people getting out of the college somehow want to be an entrepreneur. But for an entrepreneur, it is about, as you mentioned, being adaptable to the situations, being able to experiment, being able to take higher risk. So you have been, uh, with the 100 plus startups and being guiding them, being mentoring them. So, as a what is the importance of having a right mentor? And then we would discuss about what role does they play, what an entrepreneur should look into while in their initial phase of the startup.
Thanks for asking that, Yash. I think the partnership with NASSCOM as a mentor and advisor happened precisely 3 4 years ago. Back in 2021, while I was working with Flipkart, somebody from NASSCOM, Data Security Council of India, reached out asking if I could provide some of my bandwidth as a pro bono to advise cybersecurity startups. It started with that and later got inducted into the NASSCOM, another incubator called Deep Tech Club. And recently, this year, earlier starting of this year, I partnered with T-Hub, which is another incubator for startups, and they look at 25 various industries. So what I
Mhm.
learned, what I understood from the organization, working with various organizations, evaluating tools, building teams, consuming a lot of cybersecurity tools, made me understand how things can be better. In mid of my career, I also had an opportunity to work with a product organization which was building cybersecurity solution, and I have closely worked with the development teams, engineering teams, which were building this tool, and a whole lot of my learning was picked up from that organization where I got a chance to experiment with some of our customers on beta. How do they like a particular feature? How is it useful in building a strong security posture for them? And if something doesn't work, providing that as a feedback to the engineering team and tweaking the feature has actually come a long way, handy for me. And this is what I take to the some of the incubators that I'm partnered with, right? So there are startups today that are building cutting edge cybersecurity solutions from our country. And it has to be unique, it has to be sustained over a longer period, and how it has to be simple to use. It need not essentially complicate at the cost of being unique. So that's what I provide to the startups. And I think it all comes with taking risks. An entrepreneur has to try out, test out, see how it works, and market will always surprise you. If you might think this is the best tool and nobody else could make it, it's just a matter of time that you'll be relevant in the market. So how do you continue to understand what your customer wants? How do you provide the best service possible and continue to sustain is an important aspect for a cybersecurity entrepreneur. And if anyone is thinking about building something in the cybersecurity, I would absolutely ask them to take the risk, try it out. You will experience something, and that will make you stronger. If you're just ideating, that won't go anywhere. I think bias for action is needed. Try it out. Get into not very saturated market. Try out some solutions. Get your first customers to try out them. Be on the ground, listening to their feedback, and continue to improvise. That's one way. And there are amazing solutions coming out of the country, and I'm looking forward to possibly help them expand into various regions and provide greater value. That's my part of giving it back to the community where my career is built over the last 2 decades.
So, giving back to the community, I have very aspired to be, able to give back to the community whatever in capacity I can. And this is, backbone of cybersecurity industry. And from few years, there is this booming into conferences, community things, events, and possibly around things happening in the country. So, what do you think importance of you contributing to the community, or an individual starting into the uh, uh, field, taking help from the communities, taken like in other industry. What I felt is there are already established community. There are Google developers clubs. There are other aspects of it, AWS and other thing. But when we see cybersecurity is still growing, so what is your take on that?
As you mentioned, yes, cybersecurity has good enough communities, but it's not spread across the country where a lot of innovation is happening. So there are practitioner communities and there are leadership communities where decision makers are part of it. I would recommend anyone at a young stage of their career to start with a practitioner community, right? And alone, you can only ideate, possibly explore, experiment so much. But within a community, I think you will meet brilliant minds. So together, you can really go very far, and you have to leverage on that community, work with each other, see how you can actually add value rather than taking something from the community. See how you can give to that community. What is that you can contribute? What is the value you can give? Together, working with these bright minds, I believe magic happens, and you would actually build to be much more stronger in whatever cybersecurity practice you are into, and you could leverage on some of the skills that you picked up from the community, and then continue to have other skills that would elevate your career into a leader, and be part of these decision maker communities or leadership communities, where people from the same industry are ideating on how to solve a particular problem. Right. So it goes a long way without saying that being part of community will help you more than you can do alone for yourself. I would highly recommend being part of community, participating actively, contributing to them, and possibly building on that value.
Mhm. So coming back to things around startup, for someone like me, for example, I want to get started as an entrepreneur. So how do I register my stuff with Data Security Council, NASSCOM, and what kind of help does those people, or you being an advisor or a mentor, and people around that could bring to the table, so that my particular idea is being able to scale up to and a stage wherein I could uh, build a product or build a service.
Absolutely, Ash. I think that's a great idea. Definitely, you will have all the support you need in terms of converting your idea into revenue generating business by the available ecosystem. NASSCOM definitely has a strong ecosystem of mentors and supporters in terms of evaluating the idea. So it can start with a simple idea, whether it be a service or a product, and you can take this idea to them, and they would help convert into a business by setting up the right ecosystem for you, support in terms of funding, accelerating the idea to building a strong product once you create an MVP. So at least Data Security Council of India, to my knowledge, has multiple cohorts. So they publish this on their website and also their
Mhm.
feeds, so social feeds, where they accept some of these applications from interesting ideas. You can actually build. If you have an MVP, there's nothing like that. But if you don't have an MVP and still want to do, there are various programs. At an early stage, I think a program like Launchpad is available. You would actually apply for it, and based on the idea, if that has a lot of potential, they would pick that up and support you in building that idea into an MVP. There are growth stage programs as well, which happens not at a very early stage, it's only with idea, but you already have a product or a service that is in the market, and how do you accelerate further, and how do you scale up is a program. There are various programs. I would highly recommend on checking their website, social feeds, and possibly applying. I also keep sharing a lot of updates in terms of what NASSCOM is doing on both Data Security Council of India and Deep Tech Club. There will be cohorts you can apply, and if selected, yes, there will be a whole lot of support coming from the system.
So I personally had this question, being into 2 3 years into the industry, whether I should opt for a service based business going forward, or a product based companies wherein they are building product, they are providing solutions. So that particular doubt I had. So, what's your suggestion to people who already have this kind of confusions? And what does product security or product based companies differentiate with the service based businesses?
Okay. Well, definitely sometimes I feel market is saturated beyond a point, and there might be services that everyone is consuming and everyone is providing. So make sure if it's a service, it is very unique in nature, and that is something that only keep it a niche. It can't be something that everyone is providing in the market. So that way you are differentiating yourself. And if it's a product, I think it's all about how do you build, how do you sell, how do you sustain it, how do you continue to add features, how do you scale it up, right? So it's about what you can think of, what you can ideate on, and where you set your focus to. So both are great ways to start. While services could possibly give you cash flows immediately, a product could happen at a later stage because you have to build it, you have to prove it into the market by building beta or MVP, and possibly then raise funding. If it's a very unique one, definitely there is going to be a lot of investor interest, right?
Mhm.
So that will help you. I mean, those initial network will actually help you with a handful of references to meet your first 10, 50, 100 customers. And if the product is great, I think these first few customers will provide enough testimonies and references for you to expand. So I would say you can try both, but if you have a strong idea on product, definitely do product. If not, start with service. Also potentially look at how can you build strong products, and that's the need of the hour within the subcontinent, where a lot of products has to be created for the emerging markets and possibly disrupt the ecosystem. That's what I believe in.
I was coming to that question where importance of having indigenous products that are built in the country, where I personally believe the turnaround time reduces to an extent, and when there are issues, things around product, you can actually have a conversation at your convenience with the companies. So building an indigenous products and indigenous softwares into the country, specifically in cybersecurity, where it was 10 years back, and what do you think it is going to be in the next 10 years?
I think we are mid of the emerging boom in the economy. There'll be a lot of small, medium scale businesses that needs to secure whatever data they possess, whatever data they are building to serve their customers, and that will actually create a whole lot of opportunities, right? So cost is going to be a major differentiator for these small and medium businesses. And the value add that would be provided from a large organization and access to the right customer service when they need would be a strong differentiator. So if you're thinking about a service, how can you be close to your customer and what could be the quick turnaround time with which you can serve them and make sure you are not disrupting their business is going to be the game. And if it's a product, at what cost would you sell them? How much licensing cost would be? What would be the renewal cost? How can that be uh, cost of operating at a lower number compared to any large conglomerates or organizations that are providing the solution is going to be a differentiator.
So things are developing, need to think around it, innovate, and then experiment is the main thing. So, coming to the conclusion part of the podcast, I have been asking this to few of the leaders, and I got to understand how important it is. We are working in a very challenging field, and as we mentioned during the conversation, every day we come up with some of the new challenges that needs to be resolved, and with that, you need to have a stable work-life balance. You need to focus on your mental health, and not much people into the country, into the community, are focusing at present. But we need to talk around it. So, what's your point on importance of mental health in cybersecurity, and how one can, as a beginner, tackle the situations like imposter syndrome or when they are in stressful situations?
Well, I think finding order in chaos is what I call cybersecurity as. There is going to be a lot of action, a lot of noise in terms of what is something relevant for your organization to be protected and what's not. So, how do you prioritize them? How do you clearly communicate? How do you keep that calm when in crisis is all the need? And that comes with a whole lot of burning hands, being in the situations, experiencing them firsthand. One has to go through the cycle. There is no shortcut, there is no easy way to be successful in cybersecurity. Yes, it definitely comes with a whole lot of sacrifices, a stronger commitment towards the field. And somebody is coming for the fancies into this field, I wouldn't recommend them. Somebody wants to really work hard and build their career, want to persist and persevere, that's what the cybersecurity is for. It's definitely not for the faint of the heart, and it requires continuous learning and continuous exploration into what could be coming up. So, my 2 cents for anyone considering cybersecurity as a career, definitely please try. Take the risk, it's worth it. When you are young, definitely you have to uh, learn many skills that would make you a great success and build who you are into. So, don't be afraid by how things are changing, the macroeconomic conditions of the global dynamics, that will always be there. But if you could focus, if you could work hard and fix your mind to what you can actually achieve, that would go a long way. There will always be challenges in terms of work-life balance, but you possibly need to choose what's that sacrifice you could make and what's the commitment you could give. Yeah, so that's understanding, and health, mental health, physical health definitely is a priority, a number one priority. So if you are having sound mind and strong body, I'm sure you can absorb a lot of this, and you will continue to give your best. There is no shortcut. There is no magic wand to make it take in cybersecurity.
So yeah, it is a challenging field, and to be able to tackle situations is what you need. A quick question that came to mind, do a person starting into cybersecurity needs to have a knowledge of coding, or a strong technical aspect of it, or one can get started into it? We discuss about several fields that are there into the domain that doesn't require much of a technical skills. So do they need a knowledge of coding and everything?
I believe coding would actually make you a critical thinker, and would actually make use of a lot of techniques that wouldn't go without saying that you can excel at some things that a non-coder wouldn't have. Right. So if somebody is into coding, they could pick up a code script program. I would absolutely recommend to do that. But there are people who might not get coding as some of the skills. That shouldn't detain them from possibly trying cybersecurity as a career. Like I mentioned, there are technical and non-technical roles. For most of the technical roles, coding would be an added advantage. But for a
Mhm.
non-technical role, it's not an essential skill, but it doesn't hurt to have. So somebody is thinking coding as a practice, definitely it makes a whole lot of sense for them to pick up on the application security related job roles. It goes a long way for them to evaluate, understand what's in the code, and if they could read the code and assess and evaluate, they could actually stop a lot of breaches from happening at a code level, right? So that's part of the application security program.
So that was all from my end, and thank you once again for joining and sharing your invaluable insights to the people around startup, around cybersecurity, and what it takes to build a great cybersecurity team. And we discussed a lot of things beyond that. So I look forward, and I would recommend audience, if you have some of your entrepreneurship spirit around you, please feel free to reach out to sir. He would be the one able to help you build things, clear your doubts and things around it. So until next time, have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Yash.